Howdy, folks. John Frues here. Welcome to Avia Yala Update. I'm joined by my co-host Javier Ramirez, and we're talking about what's going on mainly in southern Avia Yala today. And so, our first topic, we're going to look at what's happening in Colombia and Venezuela. Um, so, recently, the Trump administration has called Maduro a narco terrorist. They've blown up a couple of speedboats. They've built up military in the area. Um, so they're spoiling for a fight, I guess we could say. Um, and you had mentioned before we started recording, there's a connection. Well, in other words, it's interesting to look at what's happening in Venezuela as well as Colombia to compare what's going on. So what's happening in these two areas?
Well, yeah, everyone. As as we discussed before, it's our perspectives are indigenous perspective from me and Buddhist perspective from John. But we want to focus on politics today, and that doesn't sound too spiritual, but I think it is important to be clear that right now, all the propaganda of the our empire is against these two countries, Venezuela and Colombia, because they are related with the uh, trafficking of drugs, or drug trafficking. And for decades and decades, United States have been doing the, you know, fight against the war against drugs, they call it,
Right, the
uh,
war on drugs. Yeah.
the war on drugs. Yeah, that's, it is interesting because now the MAGAs are calling the Secretary of Defense Secretary of War, which was called decades ago, and they changed it to defense. Now they are saying they are in war. And they are making all of these changes, and now they're starting to focus not only in Venezuela and Colombia, we want to focus on that, but in the whole region of Central Aveyala and the Caribbean. That's what they want to show force because what's going on with the declining of the power of the USA. Internationally, we are losing power and influence. Then what is the best thing to use is to use the southern region to, show force and control. Then United States have been mobilizing the Navy. There's, I believe, 6 destroyers. There's even a nuclear submarine. There are, you know, uh, airplanes that are used just
Oh yeah,
to,
like the stealth fighters and yeah,
yeah, all of those are mobilized and like 4,000,
Marines.
troops,
Yeah.
Marines are there, and they are ready to enter in action. And as you mentioned, they already said that they took two different ships. What were not ships, really, they were really
Small
little
boats.
little
Yeah.
boats. Um, it's ridiculous that they call it ships, but Um, and they had said that they were coming from Venezuela. Then the rhetoric has been, and this is not new, because during the first MAGA regime, if we remember, they starting to call they were starting to using the same rhetoric against Venezuela, especially because at that time Colombia was under their control. And Venezuela was called, narco regime, that they were, trafficking drugs and all of that. And they started to use to say that there's gangs controlling the government and all of that rhetoric. And if you hear the news, it's the same rhetoric that they used before to justify that, they no longer are, trying to say, oh, Maduro is a dictator and is a criminal and all of that. They say it because they expand, the rewards to $50 million to capture
They want to
Maduro.
make him the devil, and they
Yes,
put a $50 million
yeah, and it's
reward.
interesting, because Maduro is in Venezuela. They know where he is. They don't need to find him.
Yeah.
He's in Venezuela.
Yeah.
Then and again, I want to clarify that we're not trying to justify Maduro's regime.
Hmm.
We could be agree or disagree with whatever the government in Venezuela is doing. What we're trying to present here is what's going on politically. The USA is using the same rhetoric to justify what they are doing. They wanted to control the region. And the reality is Venezuela has the biggest, reserve of oil in the world,
Hmm.
has the biggest reserve of gold. They have lithium. They have many things that USA need at this moment.
Yeah, oil,
Then,
gold, and other minerals,
yeah,
and yeah,
minerals,
yeah. Hmm.
and also the rare, what they call it,
Rare earth metal. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, rare lands
Yeah.
are part of Venezuela richness, and that's how this situation happened. It's not because Maduro's in power, or they are communists or all of this. It's not that. It's really what they want is to have the resources. Now, why they had not intervened Venezuela? Why they had not been going with the Marines into Venezuela? Because they know it's not the right moment or the right movement. Because Exxon and Chevron has interest in the oil always, and um, after the election, where they were saying that it was a fraud and all of that, Venezuela made an agreement with the MAGA government, and they allow Exxon to continue extracting from certain oils wells in Venezuela. And now MAGAs are trying to make sure that Chevron can continue doing, the Standard Oil.
Yeah.
Um, then it's something that they are interested, because um, they wanted to continue exploiting that resources. And that allowed them to also get involved into the, extractive of the of gold and other things. Then that's what they're trying to pressure Venezuela in this moment. Then the interest is just resources. It's not really democracy or any other thing. That's why I said it's not about what Venezuela government is doing or not doing, or if we agree or disagree with the government of Venezuela. Is what United States doing just to get the resources from other country and other place in
Hmm.
Avellana. Then that's have been happening. Then they have been accusing the government of Venezuela of being narco regime. The Tren de Aragua is one of the biggest uh, evil,
Right.
narco traffickers and all of that. When there's really not data that support that, and even Venezuela have been showing, that Tren de Aragua is not really dangerous at this point. They took those criminals and they don't have any influence in the government. Um, for example, in the production of drugs, the first country with the most production, and this is historically, is been Colombia. Even though Colombia has 8 uh, USA bases, military bases
Yeah.
in Colombia. They are still there. And even like that, Colombia is still the number one producer of cocaine. The second producer of cocaine is Peru, and the third one is Ecuador. Venezuela, in all the international agencies, doesn't appear as a producer of any drug. There's no cultivation of coca leaf or anything
Hmm.
in Venezuela at all. In the whole territory, there's no cultivation or production. But it's called in the narco government.
Right. So the places where there is more drugs is the place where America has more influence.
Yes, exactly. Then it
And
is interesting.
in addition, obviously, the demand for the drugs in America is coming from
Yeah,
America, right?
exactly. And the biggest question is, okay, who's the biggest consumer of the drugs is USA.
Yeah.
And why the MAGAs doesn't try to control all the distribution of drug inside USA. Why? Where is all that money goes?
Right.
All those
Yeah.
millions that are creating by the drug trafficking inside the USA, where are they? Why the
And
MAGAs are not controlling that? Why the MAGAs are not calling a war on drug inside USA? Like
also
they're
that
doing against the immigrants. Um,
obviously
then,
the underlying issue as well of if people in America had education, healthcare, housing, jobs, the demand would go way down.
yeah, that's the interesting thing.
Yeah. So
Then
it's not about the drugs, it's
no,
about
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Then,
Yeah.
all of this mobilization of military force is because they want to show that they can still have control of the region. And the threat is to make sure that they force Venezuelan government to allow Exxon to exploit all of those, resources,
Mhm.
like they are doing for the for others, and they want all the big companies to be part of that. Then that's the most interesting thing. Now, what is interesting too is because this threat now, before was more rhetoric, propaganda, but now they mobilize the military into the region. That makes Venezuela to mobilize internally. And they have been mobilizing not only the army and the police, but also all the militia.
Yeah.
Civilians are part of the militia. And right now is what they say, 8 millions of militia has been mobilized. They are
Right.
they are getting trained, they are getting armed, and they are ready to fight in case of any invasion. Then it's not going to be easy. Not that Venezuela can, how to say it, the United States want to invade it, they can invade Venezuela, but it's going to cost USA lives and also a lot of resources. And the Venezuelans are going to be resistant for long. And they're not going to be like Gaza and the Zionists, it's going to be a different kind of fight. Then they are getting trained right now, mobilizing. They are, you know, ready to defend the
What
territory.
was the head of the military, Cabello, that's his name?
Yeah, uh,
And so he
yeah,
was saying we're entering into another stage of the revolution, basically. Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
They are consolidating the last election that was municipal and Congress
Hmm.
give total power to them.
Yeah.
Because people support them even with the calls of the opposition, the opposition has no chances to win, and that show that in the electoral process, the the official consolidate the power.
Yeah.
Maduro is, internally is strong. Then they know the military support because Cabello, as a interior secretary, is the head of the army too, and all the heads of the military forces are with Cabello.
And Cabello
And
was close with Chavez.
yeah, he was the president of the Congress at the time of Chavez.
Hmm.
And many people thought that Cabello would be the next president, but Maduro become the
Hmm.
president. Um, no doubt that if Cabello become president after Maduro, he's going to be popular because he's not really a popular. person.
Yeah.
He's he's more charismatic even than Maduro.
Mm,
Maduro has not charisma in reality, like Chavez.
yeah.
But Cabello has that charisma, and
Mm,
his voice and when he called people, people mobilize. It's a powerful force inside the
right.
power.
So it's the two of them that are the two main leaders, we can say.
Yeah, well, yeah, Diosdado Cabello and Maduro, yes.
Yeah.
But Diosdado Cabello is the one who controlled the army, in other words.
Yeah.
Then he's the one who has been also calling the militia to get ready and get trained, get armed
Mm,
and all of that. And they are receiving, support from Russia, from China.
mm,
Then that's the other part that is in geopolitics. United States has not advantage to invade Venezuela because Venezuela has at this moment the support of Russia, China, and
mm,
Iran.
yeah.
Then
They
it's
they
not.
su- they supported Venezuela economically with this during the sanctions.
Yes, yeah, and that's why the sanction has not been causing too much trouble anymore,
Yeah.
because of the support. Then that's the situation with Venezuela. Then we will see what's going to happen as the next steps. Most likely, the we can say them if they invade Venezuela, it's going to be really hard for United States to justify, and also could create a global conflict.
I mean, it's like it's not like we have a draft anymore, right? We only have 4,000 Marines, and there's however many the military and the militia combined is millions in Venezuela.
Yeah,
So
and
like,
it's and
yeah,
it and it. For example, Russia or China notice that United States really are going to invade. I don't have a doubt that they will mobilize
I think
too.
that's definitely the big question of would it really become World War in that sense?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's going to be a global conflict. It's not going to be
yeah,
just local in that sense. That's why United States think twice before they take action against Venezuela. Then that's the situation because they mobilize the Navy, and the Marines, but they still have bases in Colombia. They still have bases in Panama. They still have bases in Peru. And they're gonna re assign bases in Ecuador because Novoa is open up for the military again.
mhm,
Then they're gonna surround really Brazil and Venezuela practically,
yeah,
with military bases. Then it's and also there's military bases in Honduras and El Salvador. I don't know if Guatemala still has. They had before, but I'm not sure right now. But El Salvador has a base, and Honduras has six bases, four of six bases, and Panama has bases too. Only Nicaragua doesn't have a uh,
mhm,
military base. Then you have also involved Puerto Rico. The governor of Puerto Rico has a sellout, welcomed the Marines, and they said that they need to attack, Venezuela. They are in favor of that, and she welcomes, all the military mobilization of the USA because of the closeness to Venezuela is Puerto Rico. Then it
yeah,
is the place where they're gonna get, all the logistics.
yeah,
And they have been mobilized airplanes to Puerto Rico to be ready to fly over Venezuela if it's needed. Then Puerto Rico has opened that doors to the army, and we know because Puerto Rico is a colony of the USA.
a vassal, yeah,
Then yes, then that's not a surprise, but it is an extra scene, that make the pressure on Venezuela. Now, that's the situation right now in Venezuela. We want to see how, people is getting more ready and what is going to be the next step that the MAGA regime are going to take. Like I said, it's going to be more. pressure, economic pressure and military pressure, the real, boots on soil, because what they want is to guarantee the exploitation of the oil, you know, by the companies, the USA companies. Then the next part that affect, because in this case, is Colombia, because Petro is seen by United States as a person who's against United States like Maduro. And Petro has been accused of many things, has a lot of internal pressure by the opposition too. They are trying to pressure lawfare against Petro. They want for him not to finish the presidency term. He's in the half, almost through the year, and um, they are planning to take over again. Conservatives take over Colombia. That's why they are putting pressure right now on Petro. And at this point, the USA has decertified Colombia. And this is not the first time, before they decertify Colombia. But they do it because they criticize Petro's policies. And even when Venezuela asked Colombia to support in case of an invasion, Petro said, yes, we're ready.
Hmm.
And Petro is supporting Venezuela in that sense.
Yeah.
Then they are ready to, I don't know why my hand is up.
Yeah, the camera recognized your hand because you it was raised. Yeah.
Right.
But okay, well, so Petro is um it's not like he's Chavez or whatever.
No,
It's not like there's some
well,
huge social movement behind him. Like
yeah,
what is it on the ground in Colombia? Like how much support does he have on the ground or in the military? Where
well,
does the
right now
support come from, I guess? Yeah.
right now the military are really not into do a coup d'état or anything.
Yeah.
Petro has guaranteed that the commanders of the branches in
Hmm.
Colombia are supporting the government, not necessarily 100%, but not against.
Yeah.
Um, the more pressure he has is a political pressure from Congress that is controlled by the opposition, and they are pressuring, you know. But still, in Colombia, you have some kind of independence of the judiciary too, judicial power, a kind of independent, not completely uncorrupt,
Hmm.
but still, it's a power that the different people can trust, in a sense. Because Colombia have been going through violence for so long, they had civil war for more than half a century with different military guerrilla groups, and one of the guerrilla group was the M19, which Petro belonged to, and they demobilized, I don't know, 30 years ago, something like that. Um, and the main leader of the M19 was killed, and several of the leaders were killed after demobilized. And that's why many people didn't trust to, demobilize. But, finally, Petro, who was really young when he was part of the guerrilla movement. Now, as an adult, he's more, you can call it more democratic in his point of views. He's not really an extreme, even
Hmm.
though USA said that he is a communist and all of that. In reality, he's not that extreme person. And he's not a conservative, but he's not that extremist that they presented.
And
Um,
again, he doesn't have like a huge party or movement underneath him the way Maduro does.
why he made, some coalitions. That's why he took power.
Yeah. Hmm.
And he's struggling to maintain, some unity with different groups to see if they can continue, whoever is going to be the next candidate, because in Colombia the president cannot be reelected. He needs to wait for another term, if he wants to become a
Mm.
candidate. Um, that's that's the change that Colombia did, and right now he knows that when he finishes his term, he needs to make sure uh, that at least people in Colombia could vote in favor of their candidate, to make some continuation of what his government is doing right now. He is good on speeches. In reality, he's a charismatic leader in Colombia. People listen to him, not only internally but international. He has an impact in his speeches, and that's why United States hate him. Because when he speaks, people listen, and other countries listen to him too. Then he's in that sense, he has a political influence in the region.
Hmm.
Especially because he's the first non-conservative president in Colombia after centuries. Then it's an unusual what happened in Colombia with Petro. Then I don't know if the party of the Gustavo Petro will continue to be in power after him, but at least the historical impact that he has is gonna be there. Um, then United States, because it's attacking Petro, decertify Colombia, saying that Petro government is not doing enough against drugs, and Petro has presented how they have been promoting, um, eradication of coca cultivations, and providing economic incentives to farmers to have a different kind of plantations. But still, coca is the most uh, profitable product. And Colombia continued to be the number one producer of cocaine and other drugs. Um, and it's really difficult because most of the production is in the jungle. Then it's hard for the army and the police force to control all of that, because the jungle is not easy to control. And narcos have been influenced politicians, and most of them conservative politicians. And those who critique Petro probably are politicians who are connected with the narcos
Yeah.
in Colombia. Then it is no longer what happened before with the Medellin cartel or the other cartel. It's no longer that situation, but it's a totally different situation. But United States calling the Petro government as a failure. There are They are saying that Petro is creating more violence, and the opposition is blaming him for not controlling, crime and all of that. Still, there's some paramilitary forces and small guerrilla forces are still, fighting too, but it's not like before. You know, the situation in Colombia has been changing, and he has been trying to go to the whole country. He visited different areas and talked to people. He's the kind of politician that he doesn't stay in the presidential palace. He goes and interact
Hmm.
with people. He goes and talk to people, listen to the people, and that's why the opposition and the USA is so against him, because he's like I said, he's a charismatic politician in
Yeah.
Colombia, which is something unusual, and that's what they don't like. Then the desertification made sure that they are putting Colombia in a situation where they cannot receive more fundings to in the war of drug, those money are going to be retained by the USA government. Um, but that's happened before. In Colombia, have been doing, you know, regain the certification again. When change in the government happened, and that could happen again. Um, um, Colombia already experienced that with Samper, and they're sure. I'm sure the Petro will handle that situation. The reason is because Petro is now supporting Venezuela in a sense, because it's not because he's say, "Oh, I'm going to defend Venezuela." It's because he knows that whatever happened to Venezuela is going to affect Colombia.
Yeah.
Whatever they do against Venezuela is not going to be just Venezuela. It's going to include Colombia, and he knows that. He knows because United States don't like him. Then uh, this mobilization of the military of the USA is not against just Venezuela; it's the whole region, and does include Colombia. Then he said, "Well, Colombia is gonna be ready for anything too, and he knows that that's a threat against him too. And it's more easy for United States to invade Colombia than Venezuela at this point.
They already have the bases there.
Yeah, they already have the bases. Then, they can look for support inside the military, which still support Petro, but it's not like in Venezuela that you know
Hmm.
the military are 100% supported of the military Chavistas in Venezuela. In Petro's Colombia, they are not. The army is not like that, but still he has support. Then he has to build the civil society support, and that's what he's trying to do. Then right now the rhetoric is more attacks against Petro, too. And this is in this week the declaration from Marco Rubio, the Secretary of the State, have been criticizing Petro, the government, and call it a failed government. And then he fly to have a conversation with Netanyahu in Israel, the most
Right,
genocidal
like the worst
and
government
criminal.
on earth.
Yeah, the most
The
criminal
combination of
government.
America and Israel together is the worst
Yes,
government.
exactly.
So it's
Then
complete
it's
hypocrisy.
interesting, it's
Yeah.
interesting that he criticized Colombia and Venezuela and he's supporting a genocidal person who's a criminal, you know,
Yeah,
Netanyahu.
that's just the rot of the empire and the level of
Yeah,
hypocrisy. Yeah.
exactly. Then those are the situations right now around Venezuela and Colombia. We want to see what's going to be the next steps that the MAGA are going to take. Uh, they are, the reason why the military bases are in Colombia because they are protecting the baselines, of the oil. It's interesting. All the bases are close to oil
Yeah.
production in Colombia. Um, instead of controlling the drug trafficking, they are controlling the oil production. Um, because it's their
Yeah.
more interest for the USA. And the military bases are around those, you know,
Yeah.
oil extractions. Um, and we will see what will happen. But right now, that's the situation with uh, Colombia and Venezuela,
Yeah.
and therefore, the threat and also the mobilization of the military. And this is only a side note, is to regain the control of the canal in Panama. Murillo
Right.
government is a pro-USA government, is a puppet of the MAGAs, and he's giving the whole control back to the USA. When took a lot for the Panama to get control from the USA after Torrijos got agreement, and now Murillo is giving like nothing, back the control to USA.
Yeah.
Then that's to in this case, Colombia and Venezuela has an strategic, location
Hmm.
because it's to the Caribbean, and also Colombia has, access to the Atlantic and the Pacific.
Hmm.
And the canal is an important strategic place. Then if the United States regain the control of the canal, they can control all the commercial trades from Colombia and Venezuela too.
Yeah.
They need to find different routes, to really, uh, overcome all of the challenge that the MAGA regime is going to impose to them, commercially at least.
Okay, so shall we shift to elections in
Yeah,
Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile?
yeah. Can we stop here and then
Oh yeah,
record
okay,
it?
so I'll stop to make a break in the video.
Yeah.